My name's Geoff Waters. I currently live in Longmont, Colorado. However, born and raised in New Jersey, came out to school at the University of Colorado about 1969, and I have to tell you, the first thing I did when I saw Boulder was pick up the telephone, called my dad who was working in Manhattan and said, "Dad, I'm never coming home again." I've always known of Boulder hospice from the 1970s when the hospice movement was gaining traction. However, recently when my sister was in need of palliative care and hospice care, I learned of TRU community care through Kaiser Permanente. My sister Doris was single, she was an attorney, and she was receiving care for a cancer diagnosis from her provider, which happened to be Kaiser Permanente. And this was a 10-year process for her. And she got through 7 years just fine. I say just fine, you know, it's not an easy process to go through, but was cancer-free. But after 7 years was diagnosed with metastatic cancer. And at that time, she shut down her law practice, sold her home, gave away all of her possessions, and moved in with me, which became a 3-year process. You know, we don't know of end of life and what the dying process is until it's right in front of our face. And then, thank God, we have the option for hospice care. You know, TRU community care can provide the clinical support and the emotional support, spiritual support, all that, but there's also family support on top of that. Knowing the specifics of the dying process helped all of us enormously. And that's something, frankly, if I was to have to repeat or I would give anyone any advice, would be, look, you find out what active dying is and how it exhibits itself in the very beginning. So you're not at home confused and scared and kind of disoriented. You know what's going on. And I got that from the center. Well, here's a little story. I was talking to Dr. Snow. Remember, I came from this medical background, right? All over the world. I've been in and out of ICUs, respiratory care centers, everything. Well, I asked her one day, I said, what kind of reimbursement do you get for a patient in your facility? And she told me, and I was shocked how little it is. And this is a fraction of the cost being reimbursed to TRU community care for that particular service. And I did a quick back of the envelope calculation and said, no, there's no way. You know, my services that we received, which are not being fairly compensated at that time, remember my sister's on Medicare, well, I'm going to at least make up that gap in reimbursement. And to me, that was fair and needed. And if you pose the question to people, if you had to, out of your pocket, pay the expenses that were expended on behalf of you and your family during this period of time, knowing what the services are, would you pay it? And I can't imagine the answer wouldn't be anything but, yes, I certainly would. And you pay it a little forward. Talk to someone who has been challenged with a loved one in the end of life, and talk to someone who has availed themselves of those services, and then project and think of yourself when that time may come.